KMC here. I'm so excited today to be able to show you my conversation with the wonderful and talented Miss Shann Carr. Shann is a fantastic comedian. She's a realtor. She's a lesbian. She's a lesbian realtor and a lesbian comedian. And she's a podcast host. She's a game show host here in town. She is amazing. And I've had a chance to catch up with her. She is currently in her pool. So we're going to join her right now. So I hope you enjoy this. Hey, Shann Carr.
Hey there.
How are you, honey?
I'm
You're
neck deep, and that makes me very happy.
Yeah, it is. Is the pool water where you're at right there very comfortable?
I'm in the pool water, although people think by the sound that maybe I'm in the tub or something. But I built, well, you can see one over there on the other side. That's the morning office cabana.
Oh.
And this is the afternoon office cabana.
Oh.
Both of them allow me to be plugged in and shaded, and actually even my little new doggy is in the cabana.
Oh.
Can you see him?
Yes.
So this is the cabana. I just unplugged from it a little bit.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Has a little ice pack in a pillowcase so that my computer.
You are.
I've burned out a couple of mother drives.
Oh yeah, I bet. I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, here's to you, sweetie. I'm going to raise my little glass today. What do you got?
I got a frosty little, it's passion fruit and fresca.
Well, good for you.
A slice of frozen leftover Meyer lemon from the summer. A fatty though. Maybe it's not.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Best ice cube you can find in the desert is a frozen slice of lemon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, honey,
yeah.
You and I met you in 2005.
Okay.
Can you believe that?
Amazing.
It was on our first cruise. Mark and I went on our first cruise, and you were performing.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I did every cruise with that Atlantis events from 99 to 2010.
So we caught you in around 2005. So you were already hitting your stride. It was like second nature to you, I bet.
It was an amazing time. There were so many blessings in that. First of all, I was the token lesbian, which I have been in every environment. If I've ever been to a party where you're at, there's 30 guys and me, and sometimes there's caterer, Lynn Hammond, right?
Yeah.
Your token straight lady. But
yeah.
So it was, I have always been in that kind of environment. I was International Miss Leather in the 80s. So every event I did was, 10,000 bears on leather guys and me too. So that is, I am not properly socialized as a lesbian, quite frankly.
Well, it's not a trend. I mean, I'd like to see more of y'all. So, but you don't see them that much. You're right. You don't.
Well, it is weird. Like, I'm guessing I'm the first lesbian you asked to do this.
Yes.
Right. So you have control over whether there would be more lesbians on your show by selecting and inviting them. So that's really what you can do.
Well, that's awesome.
Another one, right?
Are there more than you?
What?
Are there more than just you? I'm not sure. That come out.
When I first moved to this town, I did a couple shows and no women were there, only guys. And so I created a pink ticket, and every guy who bought a ticket got a pink ticket to bring a lesbian free. And it was called the Intentionally Co-ed Gay Comedy Night. And most of the gay guys said, I just don't know a lesbian I like enough to spend an hour with. And they didn't bring anybody. They basically, are there any? The same kind of answer that you gave is what guys in this town say. And that's why we don't, I don't want to be, I am ultimately finally have given in to just calling it like it is instead of politely curtsying and being grateful.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna make a hand in integrating this town somehow, someday finally.
It'll happen. It's gonna happen.
The kids to do it.
Yeah, but got to get that word out there. I mean, everything's going to change. Tell me, so when I met you, you were doing comedy. You are a comedian. You were doing your bit on the cruise ship. What was that like? I mean, what kind of life was that for you? Because I believe you did, like you said, so many of them.
I did 79 with Atlantis, and that was everything for almost 11 years. And then I came back. Actually, I did 76, and I did 3 in the last couple of years again. After a good long break, it was fabulous. The leather titles. I was International Miss Leather in '88. Again, there had not been a woman title holder traveling the country, but the men's title, it's a big circuit. It's a pageantry conglomerate, But in the '80s, everybody's platform was safe sex and HIV and education and raising funds. So I did play at those bathhouses, right? I did play at every orgy with a comedy gig before and a fundraiser at the end of it. It was, and I lived in the Castro from '88 to '98 with my 2 wives and our 3 animals. And we moved to San Francisco in the middle of my title year to get the most out of it. And really living in the Castro was like The Walking Dead every day on the streets. And it was, so every gig I ever did was a fundraiser, was an educational based thing. And so transitioning, then kind of the Bears discovered me. And so
Thank God. Thank
years, and I am just the right figure for the Bear community. And then it was the cruises in '99 that kind of took over. And I have always toured. I started on tour at the age of 19 with 0 gigs, and I had only ever performed 3 times. And I toured for a year, just making lies and telling people I was famous and waiting a month in a town for a gig of, that I had no right to, really. But being a traveling gay comedian wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Right? So there were a few of us. Kate Clinton was doing it, and Robin Tyler was doing it, and a few guys, actually Tom Amiano, when I lived in the Castro, he had been a comedian before he won as, not city council, what was it called? Board of Supervisors, right? Politics and sex and travel and comedy have always been one big orgy in my career.
And you combine them all so well. I mean, it happens.
Nice.
You started yourself in the comedy?
I did in 1984.
You just said, I'm going to do this.
I saw Kate Clinton. 2 weeks later, I made a fake news article saying I was famous. I took it to a local bar. They booked me on a night that they were really not even open. I was clearly a lying teenager. And I brought a whole bunch of friends, and I told funny stories for almost a half an hour. So once or twice, once they were open, and then I left on tour with no idea that you should make plans or a route or get gigs ahead of time.
So with that kind of background and foundation, how did you end up getting on a cruise line for all those years? As you were a headliner there. I mean, I believe that to be.
I wasn't at the first. Actually, I have it all to owe to. I made a sketch comedy show in 1990. It was basically Saturday Night Live with 5 lesbians and 5 gay guy comedians. And at that time, I met a bunch of the San Francisco comedians, and I produced this show. And one of the people in the show was Mark Davis, who was a super funny drag queen who was famous for doing his mother. I mean, he was an actor and a comedian, but he also did a character of his mother. He's actually the guy that 6 Feet Under is based on. He's the eldest of a family of mortuary, and he has the petite mort tattoo. He is that guy. So anyway, he worked for Atlantis, and he had tried to kind of get me in, and they weren't having it. And I wrote every 90 days for almost 10 years. And then somebody was sick. And at the last minute, I got a passport and did a gig with them. And then I never missed another trip for 10 years.
They asked you back every time, yes?
Every time. Yeah, usually with about 4 weeks notice, but every time.
How many times would you go out a year?
On the biggest years, I think the most we did was 11, and that was a few times, a few years worth of 11. You just show up in some country and 25 to 5. You know, I wasn't on when there were 5,000 people. Those few years with those biggest last years. The biggest one I did was almost 4, and it was, you know, by that time I had done so many of them that I had hit that point that everybody was like, oh my gosh, it isn't like it used to be. Most of the people who had started before me were gone, and I had a dream, a crazy dream that I still have not achieved. And I made a staged exit from Atlantis. For a year, I told everybody, I am leaving to do this other project. I love this, but I've never had a house. I've never had an address. I've never been a volunteer. I've never been a member of anything in my whole life. I want a home and an anchor. And I want to build the first ever gay convention hotel that is driven on the production of television and movies, gay televisions and movies. And I wrote a big crazy business plan, and I talked about it for a year, and still, when I left, they believed I was fired and someone had thrown, you know, there's no way to get around that gay drama story. Even some of my actual friends, anyway.
Yeah.
And so I did come to Palm Springs. Hang on a second.
It's okay.
I have a new puppy. What are you barking at? Come here. Come here. Come inside the cabana. Come in. What a good dog. Can you lay down? Can you lay down? There you go. Good boy.
That's such a good mama.
Yeah, good boy.
So where did you go then? Did you take that
I
dream?
moved to Palm Springs. I mean, I lived here. I just had never been here.
What year was that? What year was that?
It was the beginning of 2010. I set out to do this thing. And have an address here, and you know, I wound up applying for weird jobs. I'd never had a job before. Nothing. So it took me actually a couple of years. I produced this thing called Gay Media Week at Hotel Zoso, and to show what it would be like to have a gay hotel full of. So Bruce Valanche came and he did a workshop on how to write what Hollywood will pay for. And Tom Bianchi came and did like workshops on photographing people in pool and bright light. And oh my God, who's the city council guy from Rancho Mirage who committed suicide? And the counseling center at the center is named after him. And oh my gosh, he came and he helped us do a workshop on how to do a production or a gala green. How to not spend a bunch of wasteful money. So it's an interesting, we had happy hours and cocktail mixers and business mixers, and it was pretty fun. We had a commercial making contest, and I gave away $3,000 prizes to make a commercial for a gay business. And anyway, it was my way of proving that this resort entertainment combination would work. And it was lots of fun, but right then, everybody was in the middle of a crash. Everybody was losing their houses. It was 2010, everybody just thought I was an asshole and that I was tone deaf, and as much as I have toted it around that little thing, I swear to God, I will carry it around until I die. And if I haven't done it, some little twink, I will hand the baton off to them, because I
never give up. Don't give up.
I won't.
Don't give up.
You know, there's the people who go like, man, she's been talking about that forever. And the people who go, she's relentless. She will get this done somehow.
You will.
But it's a $500 million project that no one's ever done.
The world's rebuilding now, so let's make that part of the foundation. I mean, why not?
That is every time there is a crack, I see it as an opening.
So when Mark and we bought a condo in Palm Springs in 2005, and we would come out a couple times a year. And I remember going into places or whatever, and I'd see a flyer on the window with Shann Carr's name on it. I said, oh my God, she's doing it here or something. And then we moved here, and then I saw that, and we came to see one of your shows.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was just still great. And what I admired a lot about the stuff that you did that really impressed me on the cruises is how you did that final night show, where you had taken all your notes and you knew where all the bodies were buried basically for the week and who had done what. And I thought it was hysterical. And the thing that stands out in my mind too is that you did the friggin' splits just when Boom.
Almost every show. It was a closing number that I did where I impersonated 10 different kinds of people on the dance floor. And that was the final person who you could tell would be really good in bed. Right? And it was a handspring into the splits. I did it for 30 years probably as part of the show. Now, like a year ago, I was on a walker. I have a hip dysplasia and I'm a rickety old lady. And I swear I can still do the splits. It just, there is no bam.
Yeah,
unless it is the sound of my hip popping out.
Well, that we don't want. I don't want that to happen to you. But it was always impressive, absolutely impressive.
Yeah.
So when you got to Palm Springs, what did you start doing for work? Where'd you start?
I still traveled a little bit because I didn't find any work for a long time. I actually applied to be the volunteer coordinator at the Gay and Lesbian Center. And they picked somebody else and they didn't work out very well. So I applied again and they picked somebody else and they didn't work out very well. So then I applied again and they hired me. Nice. So that was really my first job for about 18 months. And it wasn't much of a community center yet. It was some guys who played bridge and drank and wasn't crazy about the integration of all of it. And but they really did eventually give in and really what I was able to do, it was great. I loved being the volunteer coordinator, and I later became the volunteer coordinator for Cinema Diverse and AmDocs and a bunch of other groups because it's just being friendly and organized and, you know, smart and intuitive a little bit, and that's about all you need. So it didn't require a bunch of business experience, just a natural knack for humanity. And it does turn out that comedy is a great business tool in every arena. Like I would have never realized that,
I seem to see you everywhere. You know what I'm saying? You've got your little funny personality into a lot of stuff. And I love it so much. And you and I, we've been to events, we've been to parties. I've just never had this time with you. So I'm so glad that we're doing this.
Me too. Thank you.
Yeah. So Palm Springs, I mean, you just fell in love with it?
Yeah, my girlfriend at the time, 22 years ago, got a transfer to Paris State Park, Lake Paris. And I told her that I was, not keen to leaving San Francisco, but I certainly wasn't moved to a town called Paris that didn't know how to spell Paris. I wasn't going to tell my mother that I was moving to a town that couldn't spell Paris. And so I said, find the nearest gay thing. We'd never, either of us, ever been here. But the state gave her like a month at a hotel to decide where to live. And we stayed in town and we were like, oh, hell yes. And then we rented a house and then we bought a house and then we broke up. And then I got my own house in Palm Springs. Really, she owns the other house.
Yeah.
So I have a real life, I have never had a mortgage. And so it's
fun, ain't it?
The ground when I get here. Now I got a sinkhole over here and I got,
it happens.
Needs of this.
It's all part of it. It's all
part of it. And I got talked into being a realtor, which was not.
So yeah, that's another part of Shann Carr. As I peel the onion there, we see realtor happening in her life.
Yeah.
What possessed you to do that?
A friend of mine, an Atlantis fan who lives here, wanted to start a real estate firm, and he wanted me to help him get his name out there and be a mouth and make him some funny commercials. And so he paid me to get my license and make some commercials for him, which I did. And then I just started kind of accidentally selling houses. I will say that it's pretty interesting. But it isn't a love. No part of it comes from a love of doing that job. But every time I am surprised by what I learn and who I meet and how every time there is some drama that is preposterous. And again, the comedy skills.
Yeah.
It seems like no matter how well something is going, there is a meltdown usually about something that makes no sense at all. And the ability to gently bring some light to it has been powerfully helpful.
Yeah, diffuse that tension with.
And I will tell them now, there will be a moment where you have a meltdown over something that no one else understands why, and we won't quite empathize with you in the way that you want about one thing. And I will get you through that, whatever that is. So
does that take up a lot of your time?
When I'm making money, it takes too much of my time. But there's no way to keep it at a moderate thing. Although I try distinctly, I've mostly only done transactions for people that I already know or who are a friend of a friend. I'm certainly not advertising to find it. And I have one client, we've done 14 properties together in 4 years, a buy, a sell, a buy, a sell, a buy, a sell. And even with him, there's a meltdown every time. But it's like, I don't want anyone but you.
It's part of that whole transaction. But that's good that you have someone like that, you know, and that's good word of mouth too. So when people say, do you know anybody? I'm like, oh yeah, now I know a couple of realtors. Because in this town, you're either a realtor, massage therapist, or what else? I forgot.
Well, I was saying, I got my real estate license because I've been here 10 years. And at that point, it's required. Like, you get pulled over at the light and they ask for your real estate license in this town. You have to have one. So.
Well, maybe I'll start thinking about that. I don't know. That's something. I like it. So you, though, are always, always, always busy. So some of your experiences here already have been all this volunteer work that you do and with the Cinema Diverse and all that.
Well, we have Cinema Diverse coming up right now.
Yeah, what's going on with that?
So it's going streaming. I'm really not as entrenched in it as I have been. I'm not actually an employee at all.
Okay.
But I'm a volunteer. Once you've hired me, I am a volunteer you cannot get rid of.
Oh, that's great.
And so I just got the list of the women's films, and there's a nice chunk of that. The festival goes from the 11th through the 30th. There's 6 drive-in nights, and then it's streaming otherwise. So you can buy, just like you would have any other time, you can buy a single ticket, you can buy a 6-pack, or you can buy an all-access pass. I can't remember, it's like $160 or less for an all-access pass.
And you can just do that, you can just do it on your own.
You can do it on your own, at your own time, which is amazing. And I think once they've settled into whatever that platform is, they'll be able to give access. Like if I wanted to show my movie at the theater, you basically have a $500 or whatever. There's a movie rental fee to have the venue.
Yeah.
Right? So here, for far less, they can just make you a selection on their streaming. So I'm working on a film right now.
You are? Tell me about it. Tell me.
No, it's because I'm not that amazing at sitting at my kitchen counter and being funny. And I've seen all the late night guys struggle with the team, you know, far and wide from them. But alone is alone is alone. So anyway, I have been doing a few little videos. I stuffed a bunch of baby carrots into a piñata and then beat them out of it, and like some stupid, ridiculous videos. And so anyway, K-Gay was doing this concert series. Ultimately, I was going to interact with 25, 50, 100 people on a screen, and that just, the transmission is not seamless enough to have that work. And so they then asked me to make an hour-long film that they could then just upload and broadcast, which was a very tall order, I must say. And it wasn't the world's best film, but I went digging for some old stuff. And I started to tell my brand new adopted dog the story of what family he had just moved into and who I am. And I started to write the idea that my life has been measured in dogs, and that this is a whole new chapter that I'm going into with him, and how important the last dog was. And it's kind of a little sappy and a little sweet, and then it's got stand up from, you know, when this dog, these were the jokes I was telling, and when, you know.
I like that kind of stuff. I do. I think that's, you know, that's great.
Now I have to make it. It was a choppy little blob of stuff that was okay. But if I'd like to monetize it and put it up and say, hey, send me a donation.
Yeah. Well,
it needs to be cleaned up. And I hate watching myself over and over and over again until I'm satisfied with the way something's put together.
I can understand that, but what a great project to be able to work on. I mean, that's great. And you got people here who are helping you with that too? Or are you doing this all on your own?
I have an editor on whom I rely quite a bit, but I'm so bossy. It's difficult to leave me too much. Right? Any diva who's ever made their way in a man's world has been called cunty, bossy, whatever, because that's the only way.
You have to have that within you. I don't personally, but I'd like to think I do. No, I'm not like that. But I do understand the energy that it takes to do what you're going to be doing. That's great. And
I'll tell you why I had not developed it very much is because I've been by myself my whole life. I had control over everything I got and did it. Every town, every production, I was the boss of everything. So to be in a world that is more collaborative, suddenly in my 50s is a little tough to retrain me. And so I started by being a total pushover, like, okay, whatever. It took me a while to figure out that my vision wouldn't be retained in the end by being friendly and easygoing. So I'm just learning that middle-aged balance, the cunty and the easygoing.
So I was watching one of your podcasts. So tell me a little bit more about those. I watched one this morning.
Okay.
Because I knew we were going to be chatting, so I wanted to take a look at it.
So did you watch last week's then, the one from yesterday?
Well, what were you chatting about? Well, no, you had people on talking about eating outside, and
I think that was a week ago.
Was it a week ago? Oh, so, yeah.
Girls Drive Game was talking about opening up the streets.
Ah, that's right.
Right. So,
how did that all develop?
It developed because I signed on to help Brad create K-Game. Right? So Brad dreamt up this amazing gay radio station, and he asked me 85 times if I would do it. I said no. And finally, at the end, he said, "You're doing it." And I said,
"That's Brad."
6 a.m. is not a time that I am interested in. It doesn't work into my life or my career or anything else. And somehow he still got me to do it. I did it 1 day a week, and then 2 days a week, and then 3 days a week. And then they had a tissy fit, the guys and the straight guys, and they couldn't work it out. So everybody walked out. So I put my dog under my arm, and I walked out behind them because, I was only really doing it as a favor, as is the podcast, frankly. I just always see everything as an opportunity to learn the next thing. Even as much as I know that as long as I focus on everybody else's dream and making all this stuff work for them, that I'm not working on my own. But it's the first, it's been a decade now, but it's the first time in my life where other people's stuff is an option for me. So I'm trying to learn, I guess, how to follow sometimes. And, part of a machine.
So is that something that's that you will continue with, or is it just a temporary thing?
I have no idea. I wouldn't have thought so. I was the one saying, let's do a podcast from the radio show.
Right.
And so then when they were like, well, now let's do a podcast, I was like, okay. And it's fun. It has been some level of structure for me through COVID. Like every Thursday, I'm booking it. So it's a handful of a job to book the guests and all of that. But it has evolved into something that I think we all kind of count as an anchor and another measure of our lives. And it's kept me like I actually have to watch the news or spend the whole podcast going, oh, I didn't know that. Right?
Yeah.
Like two choices.
I love that, you guys are doing it. I love the fact that, and I enjoyed that format. It's fun. I like the people that come on, those kind of things. And you're all good at it. Brad is very creative, and he knows how to put it all together. He's so great. And so I'm glad there's something like that for Palm Springs, and whether it be the radio stuff or now you're doing these podcasts.
Well, and I'm also doing the fun and games department.
That's what I'm saying. Then all of a sudden I'm like, Shann's going to be hosting all of these games. So what's all that about? And how's that work?
We've done it for we're into our second month. On Tuesday nights, it's a game show. So one night is trivia, one night is this ridiculous at-home scavenger hunt. And one night one's trivia, one's a mixed game, and one's the scavenger hunt. And they're fun. People sign up. It's $10 to come play the game.
Well, do you think you miss out at all? Because correct me if I'm getting this wrong. Do you have to pay? If you pay, can you just watch what's going on? Or
some people have, actually. They have. It's funny because I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you running around like a crazy person? But each of those people have written and said, oh my gosh, I had a great time.
Yeah.
I would think that at the very least you would turn your picture off and just voyeur it.
That part I get. Yeah.
Right there, but whatever you want to do, it's cool with us.
So how does that work? Okay, so the scavenger hunt, I get you get people out there, and then they go do and find things, and then are you giving prizes out, or is there?
Yeah. We've had the scavenger hunt and the trivia nights and stuff. We have a couple of products that are things that are sponsored through Brad. He has this out and about CBD and caffeine drink that we send out to people, and there's gift certificates for a number of the restaurants that he does sponsorship and stuff with, and I think we gave away three $25 gift certificates for dinners in town and takeout and stuff like that. So he's good about keeping things in the community and
So the money that is paid for these type of events, where does that go?
Well, there's a guy who runs the game, who buys the analogs and the applications. Same for the dating game. Like, there's a whole system and an app that shuffles everybody off into the one-on-one dates 8 different times, and the game shows have like little things that you click what answer is your answer, and so he pays for those platforms and operates the game. And then he makes a little cut if there's a cut to be taken.
Yeah.
And then I take a little cut if there's a cut to be taken. And then Brad pays for all of the boosts and the advertising and the graphics and the so nobody has made a penny basically over, base entry level investment sort of stuff. I don't know whether it'll turn into some big thing. I think that dating is really interesting. I wish it weren't so long. It's only 2 hours, but it feels like forever. But I think it's going to evolve. I think I'm going to get better, and I'm going to want to tweak it. The guy in New York who's running the games has been doing speed dating for 11 years, and he really has the knack of it. So he's been coaching me along on running it. And of course, you know how it is. You want to change a little something. Like, we usually play 20 questions while he's reshuffling everyone out to the game. And I would rather ask some revealing questions than, is he dead or alive? Is he a singer or a dancer? Oh, yeah. Right? I'd like to, say, what movie stuck with you from your childhood and why? Or, whatever kind of creepy. I'm a lesbian. I want to ask you some revealing questions. And so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I've signed on to go through September again. August was pretty good, and we did 3 men and 1 woman, and we'll do it again, 3 men and 1 women dating in August.
That's awesome. Well, yeah. with your whole comedy career, who influenced you the most? Did you have an influence? I
I did it because I saw Kate Clinton at a live concert, and days later I did it. And so I would say, that was the most obvious and immediate direct influence. And then I just loved everybody and everything. Very early in my comedy career, Robin Williams would come to San Francisco and he would bump everybody off the comedy stages. And then he would accidentally steal people's jokes because it's a very stream of consciousness thing that he does. And often me too. And so I became afraid of watching too many other people's stuff that I would steal their things. He wasn't welcome back. It became a big deal that he didn't mean it, but as you're just pouring stuff out, you don't know where that just came from in your head sometimes. True. So I didn't watch as much, but I still thought in those early days, Paula Poundstone was so brilliant. She was such a brilliant crafter. And then I loved Crazy Gallagher smashing watermelons, and I loved Carlin, who just was so cerebral with words, and I liked everybody. I'm not into drugging women, but I loved Cosby. I loved everybody.
And each of those are uniquely different. Yeah. So I like that combo.
The long hairy story like Cosby is the closest to what I wound up doing. And I found other ways. I love still to be hired for a convention that's 2 or 3 days where I can write something about what we all did at the end. Yep. I like that directly relevant. But it leaves me the kind of comedian who's talking from papers and notebooks. And I always had a million, little scraps of stuff. And it's almost a form of hack you know, not to be writing a perfectly crafted, I have perfectly crafted, perfectly rehearsed stuff too, but I kind of get off on just reading. It's the first time as an old lady, I did what the kid comedians I've been seeing is reading from my phone. I got in trouble. I got in trouble for making fun. I did a gig at the river, at the amphitheater, and this was a few months ago, outdoor distance, everybody had masks on, and I made fun of the fact that they paid us in a $20 Cheesecake Factory gift certificate. And they were furious with me. Like, I love that. As a comedian, feather in my cap that I upset a corporate person by teasing them about not wanting to pay us. So all of that, I saw the video and I'm reading from my phone, which looks terrible, and I love it. I loved it.
Good for you. What's the next big thing for Shann? What do you think?
My heart is, I'm a sensitive flower for being such a nut crunching, ball busting gal. My heart is broken that I have been taken and shuffled and unsuccessful in so many different ways at getting this resort entertainment complex thing moved forward. It's so important to me, but it's so big that a bunch of cogs have to kind of click enough for me to really walk forward on it. And I haven't managed to engage in partnership in a way that is inside the box or corporate or large enough. I've always been such a fringe gal.
Yeah.
That finding a way, I hoped that real estate did move me a notch into being taken a little bit seriously. As a comedian, it's hard to take you seriously.
I bet.
So if that could be it, otherwise I'm working on this little film, right? That'll be my next big little.
So the next game thing for you, how can people find out about it? Where can they go? And
tomorrow night.
Okay.
7 o'clock. Our games are on Tuesdays, 7 o'clock Pacific. You can play from anywhere you want. And you go to Gay Desert Guide and you click on the Fun and Games department.
So
you can buy your ticket for the game.
Future ones will be all through the Gay Desert Guide. People can, because this won't air until after tomorrow. But so Gay Desert Guide is where people
go. Yep. You can go to their Facebook page. The podcast is I Love Gay Palm Springs. You can find it under events on our Facebook pages, either Gay Desert Guide or I Love Gay Palm Springs. And my video will come out, and probably, I would guess, if I can like knuckle myself down within 3 weeks, like be done with it and have it out, probably do a YouTube premiere, and then we'll see where to shop it from there.
That would be awesome. Well, thank you for spending some time with me. I appreciate it. I learned a lot, and I hope everyone else has also learned a little bit more about Shann Carr. She's more than just a funny lady. She's got so many layers. I love it. And so again, I thank you so much for sharing some time with us today. And we will be looking forward to all the things that Shann has been doing. Thanks, Shann.
My pleasure.
Okay. See you later. I love it.